So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Andrew Brindley, who's founder and director at AJ Recruitment. So firstly, Andrew, thank you for your time this morning. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and AJ Recruitment to the audience and what you do and how you help people, that would be great.
Fabulous. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, I'm Andrew Brindley. As Chris said, founder of AJ Recruitment. We're a niche social care recruitment agency based in Yorkshire. Been around since 2004. We specialise in working with organisations who typically support people with learning disabilities, typically in the adults market. We supply, I suppose, the gap between what they would have in their normal capacity as a workforce and what they need to support the service users they work with. And we're kind of that emergency response who can help them fill that short-term or maybe a longer-term bit that they can't quite manage themselves. Obviously, the sector we're in has got a huge amount of vacancies, circa 180,000. So that's a real challenge for everybody in the sector. And yeah, that's what we do, and we operate, predominantly in the north of England and in the Midlands as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so perhaps firstly, if we could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Okay, yeah. So my early career, I worked in retail management, then decided to go and do a history degree. Really enjoyed that, then joined a graduate scheme and ended up working for Tesco on their scheme. Really enjoyed my time at Tesco. And I suppose I got itchy feet. I always wanted my own business, always had that ambition to do that.
Brilliant.
I then met my current wife, Jo Guy, and we decided together we were going to start a business. Jo had worked in recruitment, I hadn't. So I helped Jo start the business in 2004. So that's kind of how we started and how the business came about. I think we just had an ambition. We felt we could do a better job. Brilliant. So we thought, well, why not? Let's give it a go.
I love that. I think firstly, and many people I spoke to, they've always wanted to have a business, and it was just about where that came from. But I love the idea also, you do it better than other people have done, because that happens very, very often with great businesses. Is they see that there's clearly a need because the need is already there, but people aren't serving that need well. And being better at other people, what we do is so key. So when you were growing up, was business always the thing you wanted to do, or did you have other goals or ambitions?
I always wanted my own business. I think it's something I did. I remember being about 10 years old, and I grew up in a very rural community, lived next door to a farm. And myself and my best friend at the time, James, decided we were going to start a chicken business. So we managed to, I can't remember how we got them, got 3 chickens off the farmer. They had a chicken hut, and we were going to feed these chickens every day, collect the eggs and sell them. And we worked out we could make, quite a bit of pocket money, if you like, over a month. And it kind of went quite well for a few months. Then unfortunately, we got a cockerel, and that decided it didn't like the hens, and they had a bit of a fight. So that ended that business quite abruptly. So that was my first, I suppose, look at what would consider entrepreneurship. At the time, I wouldn't know what that word meant. And I wasn't really surrounded by lots of business people, but I did have friends whose parents ran businesses, and I always kind of admired them. It seemed something quite exciting, something quite different. So I think those things just sort of drove me. In my household, my dad was a headmaster, so it wasn't sort of something that was around all the time. So I wasn't surrounded by lots and lots of business people.
Brilliant! I love that. What a great story! It reminds me. Our founder Brad Sugars. He always talks about his first business was a paper round, but that was the job. But it became a business when he was doing. I think he said in the end he was doing 13 paper rounds. He didn't do any of them. He just paid his mates to do them and took the commission on each one. And that's the enhancement and development of a business from and I guess most businesses start and operate like that, don't they? We start off doing it ourselves, and then we've got to create a business by building teams of doing it through and with other people. But looking back over that time, I think 2006, I think you said to now, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
There are so many challenges, and I think when you start business, I think initially it was, can we survive? We put our life savings into the business. I think we had about £14,000. that was our pot of money. So we were going to use that to start the business, but also we had to live on that. So we used an initial amount of capital to get an office. We fitted it out, and it was just thinking, right, how do we keep this going? And initially I stayed in my job, so I worked in retail management, and Joe ran the business. And then I think the business has probably been going about 3 or 4 months, and I joined Joe. 6 weeks after joining her, our biggest client went bust, and they owed us 5 grand. So I think the biggest obstacle was then, how do we survive? How do we get over this thing? And PricewaterhouseCoopers, the accounting firm, they took over this business and ran it, and rang all the agencies who supplied them. We weren't the only one, and said, look, you know, what's happened in the past is up to the auditors and what happens there. Yep. Anything going forward, we're going to write the checks. We'll send you a check weekly. We'll pay the bills. We're going to underwrite it. And I took the pragmatic view that, well, we need to keep working with them because we're going to get paid for this. Whereas the other recruiters who were much bigger companies didn't take that decision. They just withdrew completely. So we ended up with our biggest client then being exclusive almost for nearly a year, which kind of helped keep us going and helped the business grow. Really? So I think that was probably one of the biggest things that we had to do to overcome. So yeah, we have a little phrase in the business, you know, cash is king. So for any entrepreneurs out there, one of the things I would say is cash flow is paramount to the business. And you need to really work on that all the time. A sale isn't a sale until the money's in the bank. Yeah, so it's just keeping those things and doing that. So that's probably the biggest, one of the biggest early things that we came over.
I find a lot, and it happens especially in growing businesses, is that, you know, that we sort of know that there's a difference between profit and cash. Yes. But what we tend to find is that, you know, the cash disappears in growth, and you know, growth costs money, and it's quite often I find businesses say, well, you know, we know we're making money, the P&L is healthy, but we don't know where the cash is. And I think that mastery of cash is really key. And what would you say some of the other sort of key learnings you've had through that time about business in general?
About it's tough. You've got to have resilience. You learn a lot about yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And I think with that, what I've realised personally is I'm not good at everything. I'm never going to be good at everything. My job as a director in the business is to find somebody who's good at that and get them to do it, and enable them, give them the tools to do what they need to do, and enable them to have the right skills and the right coaching and training so they can do their job really well. I think that's, you know, something that's really important, because not only will they thrive and do better, but the business will, as a result of that, they'll enjoy their job more. Job satisfaction is a key indicator for people to stay in their roles. Yep. Something, you know, in our sector, you know, recruitment is very incestuous. You know, recruitment consultants get poached all the time. So you've got to make your business different for people to want to stay. Yes. And it's not just the pound notes different, it's just the way people are treated, their empowerment, all those different things are really, really important, having a great culture in a business. So I think they're things that you've got to do, definitely. Brilliant.
Yeah, I remember somebody saying a long time ago, you know, our job is not to be superheroes, i.e. do everything and be great at everything, is to recruit, manage and lead superheroes. That's our job fundamentally, that finding people that are better than us at what they do and what we do.
Definitely. And I think it's one of those things, when you start a business, you try and be that superhero and you try and do all those jobs. You know, the first office we had, I laid the floor with Joe, we painted the walls.
Brilliant.
You know, the second one, I think I did most of it on my own. The third one, we paid someone to do. I think it was £500 at the time. It seemed like a lot of money that, you know, because we'd done the other work at, you know, the weekend or whenever else. So we couldn't do that forever. You just can't. You've got to let that go and learn, when do I need to get someone to help me do this? And I think that's, as you grow your business and as the business gets more complex, that is a constant, you know, reminder of, but it's a bigger decision, it's a bigger amount of money. Yeah. And I think that, you know, you need those skills, and it's, you know, you can't do everything.
Yeah, I think the interesting, you know, the amount of money, it's asking the question, you know, it's compared to what? I mean, and I've worked with quite a few business owners that still got the mindset of the establishment and survival phase in terms of expenses. So the business has put several noughts on its turnover, but the capacity to spend more than a few hundred or £1,000 is really difficult, and it's not, and it holds people back often. So the compared to what is quite an important question. It's that's a lot of money. Well, it might have been compared to the turnover you had 5 years ago, but compared to today's turnover, it's a small amount, and that can really hold us back, I think, occasionally. But and it's interesting because I know our founder, funny enough, is over this month doing some events. But I remember I was at an event with him quite a few years ago, and one of the concepts that we talk to people a lot about is once you establish the value of your time as the person growing the business, not necessarily the job description, but if you were an investor, how much would you pay you to grow the business? Then anything that you do, you can pay somebody a lower fee to do, is going to save that time and therefore make us money, because we can spend the high ticket stuff. And one of the things Brad said, and he was at the event, and he said, look, for instance, I haven't cut my grass for 20 years. I mean, why anyone would cut the grass? And poor fellow in the audience sort of stood up and said, but Brad, I love cutting the grass. I love cutting the grass. And Brad, with all capacity, wasn't big, but he just said, that's because you haven't got a boat. And it, and it's like, yeah, that's the best thing. And it was just really interesting. But I think it's really difficult, Andrew, to let go. I don't know if you find that, to let go of stuff, and trust other people. I think there's a big gap often in business owners. Some of them, not all of them, but it's that, will they do it as well as me? And the crazy thing is often they do it better.
Yeah, I think there is that. There's that trust. I think it's the way you've been brought up. I mean, my upbringing. I grew up with my father, my mum and dad got divorced at quite an early age, so my dad brought us up, which is quite unusual. Which is quite some time ago, and I was 11 at the time. But my dad, was one of those people who liked to do things himself, wanted to fix his car, because that's what people did then.
Yep.
Whereas, and I used to fix my cars back in there when I first learned to drive. But I couldn't do anything now on my car. Almost, I could fill up the wash wipe or do whatever else. But the complicated things I'm not going to do. Someone's got far greater skills than me. So it would be more cost effective to pay them to do it. So I think you've just got to let go. And I think the other thing is, in the business terms, the people who are going to do that, they will do a better job than you. That's why they do what they do, and you've got to let that go. And I think some people, it's a bit of an ego thing. I think as a business owner, you've got to lose that ego. I would much rather somebody in my team have a fabulous idea, put it into place and do it, and I would want to give them the round of applause. It's not my success, it's their success. And that's one of my favorite things in business is getting somebody from the start of their career with you and just helping them along that journey and empowering them to grow as an individual and deliver things. That's brilliant.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear. And I'm guessing there's some coaching going on there, because I was going to ask you, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organization. Who are the best coaches you've ever worked with, and why, and in any form, whether it's business, sports, life in general?
I think I've probably got three people who resonate, all from, none of these are actually in the business now. I've worked with lots of fabulous people in the business, but I think the three who've influenced me, one was my dad. Because he came from a very working class family. His granddad was a miner. His dad worked in power stations from the Midlands. And he decided he was going to go to college. He went to grammar school, went to college, ended up working abroad in Hong Kong. And he did that in 1960 when people were doing that. He travelled loads, went to Japan and did loads of things. So for me, my dad was really quite an inspirational person, because he would just try things when people didn't try them. So I think that's thing. And then two other people I've worked with in my career. One was a chap called Nigel Smallwood, used to be my boss. He was really into the detail, but he really inspired me because he was so passionate about things, but not in a boring kind of way that was very studious. He was just very excited on, planning things, letting them work, seeing how they did. And he used to, we used to have a thing where, be at work, and he would say things like, you know, I'd love it when there's sort of less people here because it means we all work really hard, but we enjoy it much more. And it was that kind of thing. It didn't matter what the obstacle was, because everybody was in it and it was a big team effort. That got you really excited.
Yeah.
And then lastly was a chap called Peter Hampson, who was my boss when I first came to Leeds. He was a store manager at Tesco, and he was a real people person. But before it became really trendy and it was a thing to do, he had the best. They used to do a survey in the business and about your people engagement, and he had the best results in the company. And I was lucky enough to work with him and understand why he did. Yeah. And he just had no, you know, he used to say, there's a pyramid at work and I'm at the bottom and the cleaner's at the top. He said, because if I don't do my job, you probably wouldn't notice for 3 months. He said it might take 6 months. He said, but if the cleaner doesn't do their job, we'd notice in 15 minutes.
Pretty quick, yeah.
And it's just, so I think it's the lessons that they taught me. Peter, he was very, very easygoing. You know, he had no ego. He wasn't trying to prove a point with anybody. He wanted to let people do those things. And I just remember that. And I want to take some of the things that I learned from him and use those in my career and in our business.
Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. It was reminding me of, I think there's quite a famous story about the moon landing mission, the NASA moon in the late 60s and early 70s, and that they had such a strong vision about what they wanted to achieve, which was considered impossible. And I remember, I think it was JFK who started that, and he was walking around the headquarters, and the janitor, the cleaner, was there, and he said, "What do you do?" And they said, "I'm putting a man on the moon." And I think that, you know, having that vision and everybody associated with it's quite amazing. And I guess by coincidence, it was great to, you know, I've been watching the series on Elon Musk, and you know, the vision of a community not getting to Mars, but a community living on multi planets is just incredible. And I think having that strong vision is really valuable for bringing people together.
Yes, yeah, I think leaders like that just have that. I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs.
Yes,
I've read a few books on him, looked at the way he kind of not just took Apple, but he took Pixar films, and the music, and he really changed three industries. Well, or if you want to put laptops and mobiles in two different sectors. Yeah, but he definitely did change the electronic goods industry. Then he did it in film, and then he did it in music through sort of the iTunes store. And those things, I think, people just don't really understand. And he, had a real vision for what he wanted and how he was going to get there. And quite an interesting story at Apple when he, obviously he left and went back. And, I think that's kind of quite interesting. So I think, you do need to, try and inspire your people as much as you can. I'm not professing that I'm trying to be Steve Jobs. I'm trying to be me, Andrew Brindley, but I want to try and inspire the people so they can do things and do that. And one of the things that, in our business, when we, obviously we, our frontline support workers, they're our most important people. They work with individuals, with life limiting conditions, disabilities, and they're vulnerable. And one of the questions that we always ask in the business is, if you're interviewing somebody, would I be happy with this person looking after my gran or my dad or my cousin? Just think of that person. How would this person interact with them? And you just need to have that thought process, and that can't leave. That's always going to be a constant through the business. You need good people, and people
absolutely
just to do that.
Brilliant, absolutely, couldn't agree more. And I love to pick up quotes and sayings from people. I've so many. In fact, we talked about one or two before we started. But is there any favourite quotes that you fall back on a regular basis? You catch yourself saying to yourself or to your team?
Yeah, there's probably a couple. One of my favourite ones is it's a Chinese proverb, and it's the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Because people go, "Oh, I should have done this." I'm like, okay, let's start from now. So there's that that's a really good thing to get people to reset their mind, because we miss things and we didn't do it 20 years ago, but you know what, we'll start from now and move forward from now. And I think that's the thing, because you can't change the past. And then the other one's a bit of a one, I suppose I've made up myself. And I call it the Shawshank quote. And it's the whole 2 letters a week. So I don't know if you're a film fan, but I'm a bit of a film fan.
Yeah.
So, in Shawshank Redemption, Andy's in the prison, he wants some library books. So he writes 1 letter a week, and he does it for about a year, and nobody answers the letters. So he doesn't give up. He writes 2 letters a week until eventually they send him the library book. And that's why, I talk to the guys about in our business every day. In fact, I used it this week and said, right, we need to write 2 letters a week. What we did didn't work, so we need to do more of it to get the people to do it. And it's not the physically writing the 2 letters, but it's a metaphor for going, how do we double down on our efforts? Because we're influencing people to get something done, to get something back for whatever that thing is. And I use those 2 things quite a lot for different reasons. I think they just help people focus on, okay, and I need to do that. I need to write my 2 letters, because things don't happen, easily. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
You would do it. Wonderful. Love that. Yeah, 2 letters. Yeah, double down. And what would you say you've learned about yourself as you've developed your career and developed the business?
Lots of things. I mean, something that's quite pertinent to me this year. So I had a diagnosis for ADHD this year, which is quite an interesting thing. So I've learned that about myself. Myself and Joe we've got 2 children, and our son's got ADHD. He's 19 years old, and obviously I've seen that and seen Jake, obviously all his life. I've been very involved in that process for him. And then it was kind of a dawning and realization of myself, actually, I share some of the traits that Jake does and some of the things. So I decided to, I think it was during lockdown, had a bit of reflection. It took me about 2 years to go, okay, right, I'm going to do this. Rang my doctor, got put on a waiting list, then got told that's going to be another 2 years, which is what we hear all the time in the news about the backlog in the NHS. So then joined some groups online, worked with people, and decided to go private, got myself an assessment. And I think it's just, that's just another journey, I suppose, almost of my, CPD. I wanted to learn a bit about myself. I thought maybe that may or may not be true. Obviously, I've been assessed by, yes, you show all the traits. These are the reasons why, and that just like the penny drops, and you look back through your life, think, that's why I did that, and that's why I did this. I think that's a real realization of, right, okay, I can do that. I think the other thing is, to do things. It's really easy to not do something that you're going to convince yourself to do. So I like to exercise every day. So I'll get my kit out. It's by my bed. I have to step over it in the morning before I get up. So, I'm going to do it because I set my alarm early enough to do it. I'm get up and do it every single day. And, try new things. So, yes, I think those things I've learned about myself. So you've got to encourage yourself to do that. Say, well done when you've done it to yourself. Nobody else is going to do it.
Brilliant.
Give yourself a high five and then, move on.
Brilliant. I think celebration is so key. We do a lot of work with that. In fact, when we run events, we make sure people celebrate. I think the challenge of entrepreneurial people in general is we're always looking at what we haven't achieved rather than what we have, and regularly, but not necessarily frequently, but regularly looking back. We do it on a 90-day. We do 90-day planning cycles. So every 90 days, take a bit of time to look back and say, what have we achieved? Because there's incredible things. And just pat ourselves on the back every now and again and say, yeah, well done. Because it's tough. As you said at the start, it is tough. And so we need something to fall back on in terms of, recognizing our achievements, I think. And it is so key, Andrew. Yeah,
I think you have got to recognize achievements and they're doing the things. And I think, I would say there's no destination, it's the journey. So the journey's got better. Whereas we're almost taught in life, like if you do this, you get this, and then that takes you to this. Whereas it's all the same journey. You might be on a different train and you might go to different stations, but it's still the same journey. And you might have to walk a bit, you might have to catch a bus and a plane, cycle, it doesn't matter, it's still a journey. And I think it's that realization that there is no destination. So enjoy the now. I think that's very, mindfulness has obviously come around, become a much more in in people's consciousness probably over the last 10 years or so, and I think that's really important. So enjoy the things that you can enjoy the moments. You know, I've been here interviewed by you now, and I'm really enjoying this. You know, it could be something you could be really nervous about, but actually, well, you know, why not? This, you know, it's good fun chatting about it. So let's do it.
Brilliant, brilliant. I completely agree. It's something, you know, when we decided to do this, it wasn't. I've always said I've got a face. What was the phrase? I've got a face for radio, I think they say. So it was like, but let's get this done. I think you know, the message is more important than any of our you know, of our own personal fears, and it's just get out and do stuff, isn't it? And overcome that, get outside our comfort zones on a regular basis. And yeah, I think it's strange how these sorts of things can be challenging, you know, from a logical perspective, but from an emotional perspective, they really can't they? And they get, and I totally get it. It was quite interesting, the journey of doing these now, but we're over 100 for the year, so I'm quite pleased and proud of what we've achieved on that one. And I looked at the stats, actually. I'm going to celebrate. Thank you. We'll do that.
No,
I looked at the stats. I've not done it before, and I've just looked at the stats, and in the last 12 months. We've now hit over 3,000 views of our videos, which, given they're quite niche, they're, you know, it's local Yorkshire businesses. I'm really proud of, you know, that we are, you know, of interest to people in terms of, you know, the businesses that we're talking to and what they're saying. So it's great that so many people have got an interest in what's going on in the local business community. So that's great. So just starting to look forwards, about where you are. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you face, if any?
There'll always be challenges. You know, we live in a very uncertain time. You know, we've had all the political changes in the country, which are all, you know, we can't keep up. You know, there seems to be a new prime minister every week.
There's a recruitment opportunity, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, you kind of almost got to remove yourself from that and go, right, okay, that's not going to. That's such a macro thing. That's not going to impact me. You know, even in the business, you know, anything's, you know, the months away, if not years away. So I'm really excited about the future. I think there are loads of opportunities. We've got a lot going on. Obviously, we've built this technology, Temp Rewards, which is our new mobile app, and we're really excited about, you know, getting that out there, and you know, people using that and people getting rewards, and you know, the way we want to change work for, you know, the people in our sector. And then with the future, you know, where can we take that app? I think that's really exciting. I think there's loads of opportunities. I think you've got to have your feet on the ground though, because you've got to look down the thing, but also you've got to deliver the day to day as well. And you can't lose focus of, you know, we've got a core business, and that business needs to stay and perform. And you know, a week's a long time in politics. It's also a long time in recruitment, and we're very much, you know, as the economy goes up and down, you know, that can impact our business. So we just need to be aware of that and just be on top of it. But there's loads of things. There's loads of exciting things. Probably never more than now. Even more than when we started the business. There's more opportunities now. So I think that's really exciting.
Fantastic! I'm excited. That is absolutely fantastic. And what would you say? What would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now?
First thing is, okay, what's your idea?
Yeah, great.
Would somebody pay for that idea? That's the first thing. And that revenue stream might not be what you think it is. So I met with a business leader yesterday who talked about an app somebody was developing, and it's a free app, free to use, because they want the database. They want the people's data, because that's where the money is. You know, data is the new oil, as people say. So I think so would they pay for it? If you want to do it, make yourself a plan. It doesn't have to be 20 pages long. It could be 1 page, and there could be 10 things you're going to do, and that's your first plan. Get those 10 things done. So start, you know, get your sleeves rolled up, be prepared for the hard work and all the setbacks, but learn from the setbacks. Don't let them stop you. Go, well, that didn't work, so I'll try something different. I'll try something, you know, in a different way or a different market, because what you started out to do will not be what you end up doing. That's not, you know, we had a care business in the middle of our business, you know, career. So we exited that in 2019, sold that to another organization. We didn't plan to run a care business.
Yep.
You know, we'd start a recruitment business. You know, we've obviously now got our app, so that's in a separate company. So we've now got a technology business. We didn't set out doing that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to get broadband in 2004. You know, as a business. So you know, we've come from that to, you know, we're going to develop some mobile technologies. I think, yeah, if someone's going to start out, you know, don't expect what you write down on that plan to all go right. It just won't.
Yeah.
If it does, then you've probably not stretched yourself enough.
Yeah.
And something will go wrong, and you just learn from those things that go wrong to go forward. So yeah, and I would, you know, get on and do it. Get your
Brilliant.
family to support you and do all those sorts of things.
It's fantastic advice. It's something you said there about, you know, if it goes right. We have lots of great speakers as a national. In fact, we're a global organisation. We get access to amazing speakers, and one of them that we have regularly is a guy called Frank Dick, who was an very senior athletics coach with you know, a GB Olympic team for many years. And one thing he said, it really stood out for me when he said it, was he said most people analyse their loss, you know, analyse the failures, and he's you know, and that makes sense. What went wrong? How do we fix it? But he said if you don't analyse why you won, then it was luck.
Yeah.
And I just never thought of that. It's because, you know, it's almost like, well, I expected that to happen, but it didn't. It often happens, but not in the way I expected. So if I don't analyse it, it may not happen next time. Because so I thought that's fascinating. But yeah, you bang on. It's like, you know, I think there's a phrase. Well, there's a phrase in the military that's no plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
and you know, and that's planning, isn't it? But adding to that though, our founder Brad, I remember him saying to me that the value of a plan is in the planning, in terms of what might go wrong. So it's the contingency side of, this is how we'd love it to be, this lovely straight line that never happens in business, but that's the plan. But what happens if it deviates? What would we do? How would we deal with it? And the more we're able to do that through planning, the better chance we've got of succeeding. Yeah. But yeah, it's
no, I think that's really important. And you've just taken me back actually to a memory. I remember being at Tesco many years ago, and Terry Lee, who was the chief exec then, stood up in this town hall meeting. And he said, "Right, you know, we're talking about the future of the business. I can't remember the turnover of Tesco then, maybe 15 to 20 billion pounds. So a huge organisation, biggest supermarket chain in the UK. I think it was the 4th or 5th biggest in the world." And he said, "Let me tell you," he said, "our longest plan anywhere in the business is a new store opening." He said, "and we do that in 36 weeks. He said, "We have no plan anywhere that is longer than that." And he said, so we might have an idea for the next month, and we'll have all the things for marketing and everything else. We'll know that. We'll buy ahead for seasonal things. That'll be this much time. Some of the things might go into a year." He said, "but really," he said, "that store plan opening at 36 weeks is our most concrete plan. Everything else beyond that is guesswork."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yes, it's guesswork based on history and lots of tools and forecasting, but it's still guesswork." And I used that, what I learned then in that town hall meeting with our business, like when we're trying to work out things, said, look, Tesco as a business turning over 20 billion pounds don't know the future just as much as we don't. We just got to work out some of the options, what it might be, and then try and aim towards them.
Yeah,
it's just doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we recommend, we typically operate long-term goals. Where do we want to get to? But short-term 90-day planning, because as you say, anything that's you know, day 91 will depend on what it's like when we get towards it, not now. Anyone that did a 12-month plan in January 2020 will have changed it pretty quickly in March and April of 2020, and yeah, it's almost pointless. You can't do that detail. Well, it's pointless to do the detail because things change. And so that, and looking back on yourself, if looking back on your own business, is there anything that you would, if you started again, that you do differently?
Okay, I could give 2 answers to that. First short one would be, I wouldn't change anything, because everything we've done over the years, I've learned from that, and that's who I am today. So I think that really helps if you can use those things. So that's all the battle scars and everything else. I think so. That'd be the first thing. I think secondly, the other answer would be, would have probably got investment early doors and grown the business much more quickly and taken more risks. But that's hindsight. You know, I'd never run a business before, and neither had Joe, and we didn't have anyone who could coach us going, this is what you could do. So you kind of learned through experience.
Yep.
And then we sort of realized, actually, we need to get some help in and some experience, and we've done that over the time. So I think we do that differently. But either way, you know, you're still going to end up, you know, probably at the same destination. You're just taking a different route.
Yeah.
And the routes to destinations can be really scenic, and you can really enjoy it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's and funnily enough, literally, I used to visit a client in Ilkley, and from where I live, just outside Harrogate, I can go the direct sort of A50, whatever I think it's A60, whatever it is, the main road, or I can take a lovely detour over tiny little tracks past Armscliff Crag, and just went my way over, and it took an extra 10 minutes, and I had just a lot, beautiful time. And I think that's that for me was a good an example of it's sometimes where we go when we deviate from plan is actually a cool place to be, and that's okay, and it's not getting too het up with we haven't delivered exactly as we thought. And just a couple of quick things before we end. What would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you were able to go back in time and do so?
I would say to myself, do something you want to do. That'd be the first thing. Something you love, then do that. Take the risks. Work hard, because it is going to be working hard. And staying focused on that will get you the results. So believe in yourself, look around you, look at the people who do those things, and look at the people who have grown and go do things, and why have they done that? What have they done? And I think education is important, but it doesn't have to be formal. You don't have to have gone to university. You don't have to have an MA or a PhD. You can learn as much from life. But I think there's a bit of a sort of snobbery around that. Some people haven't done that, but you can learn from books, you can learn from podcasts, you can learn from videos. So life is a life journey to learn new things all the time, and I'm really excited about things that I don't know currently, but I'm going to learn.
Brilliant.
Sometime this year. So that's the advice I give myself. Go for it, stay focused, have some fun, enjoy it, but take the risks.
Brilliant. Well, Andrew, it's been really fascinating and delightful, actually. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experiences. And just before we finish, if anyone would like to contact you or your company, what would be the best ways of doing so?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. My handle is Andrew Brindley. So I got there first. I'm quite pleased. I'm also Andrew Brindley on Twitter, so I'm quite pleased about that. But LinkedIn's probably the best way to get hold of me. I'll just hold my QR code up. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, a bit further. Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's your focus. Yeah, great.
Yeah, fabulous. So if people want to get hold of me, if you can't get the QR code, just stick my name in LinkedIn, or put it in Google. It'll take you to LinkedIn. Send me a message. That's the best way to get hold of me.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Andrew. And it'd be great maybe to swing by in another 6-12 months and just see how things are going.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'd love to catch up again, Chris. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.